we start, I want to back up just a little bit and let me say a couple things.
Right.
Some of the things as we go along, you may want to talk about that I thoroughly enjoyed was your pull cap must.
Oh my gosh.
I want to talk about training the
Canal, yeah.
I think
They know police around here, is it?
And talk about you're using canal for various things. I remember
Yeah.
jumping in the club, but
Everything.
and there were other things I remember as you're talking.
Yeah.
I remember you talked about your brother. I thought it was an interesting story, and also you talked about an incident with the train here. I think the train
Killed a man who's still.
Yeah, some of those I thought were rather interesting stories. This is an opportunity, from my perspective, to observe some of these stories, things that you think be worth.
But
but
if
if
you
you
get off
start
and
on-
chip them, all right.
See, what taken, if you'll go back and talk about when you were born and how long you lived here, where you lived when you went here. Just kind of go from there.
All right. Well, when you're everything,
Go ahead.
When you answer, can you look at Harry?
it's just pretty girl. I keep my eyes off her. Are you married? Oh, that's another thing. Well, I was born just 2 doors from here in 1914, and Dr. Husselman was my doctor, and my mother passed away when I was 6 months old, and she had put me in the rest home. I think in Dayton, I'm not sure. And then as near as I can remember, I lived the second house here before I moved in the house next door. The house next door out here now, the tornado took the roof off of it and they tore it down. But I used to stand out. They had an iron fence there, and I used to peep through the iron fence. And my father worked here on the Pennsylvania Railroad, and he hired different people in the town to take care of me. I had, I believe, 4 foster homes that lived in this town. And as far as I can remember back, I used to look through that iron fence, and it was so poor, couldn't buy clothes for me, so they remembered wearing a checkerboard dress, a little checkerboard dress that they had me wearing. I used to peek through the fence. I saw the soldiers coming home from the army one day. The train stopped up here at maybe I'm telling this.
That's great. Was it World War I?
World War I soldiers was coming back, and the train stopped up here at the station and let them off at Ninnar.
Where was that station right?
Right here. No, not Station Road, this right here. We had a train station right here and a depot. You could get on the train here and go to Cincinnati, Hamilton, or Richmond, wherever you wanted to go.
Do you
And
remember seeing a
the
soldier?
soldiers, I saw them marching up the middle of the street. There was about 3 or 4 of them. I don't remember their names. And I got the biggest thrill out of that, seeing marching their uniforms on. I thought that was really something. And
Was 747 page back then?
this was a gravel road, and there was big water holes in it. When it rained, there was big water holes, and when it got so deep, the cars had a hard time getting through them. They would come through with not a gravel truck, but a team of horses with a gravel wagon. Now, the gravel wagon had a bit on it. It had long timbers, like 4x4s lengthways. They would have that gravel wagon leveled up, not leveled, but humped up the sides to get it with gravel. And to get the gravel out of the wagon, you'd get on the end and raise one of them timbers up, and the gravel would slide through. And then you went to the next timber, raised it up, and the gravel would slide through. So you got the whole thing empty. And leave a pile of gravel there, and they'd then shovel up and level up and level up. And then go, another team would come and do the same. They'd go up the road maybe for 500 feet while it was a bad road.
Was there a bridge here then?
There was an iron bridge, swinging iron bridge here, and it was on a rail. And I don't know what about the creek, they pulled it around that team horse. I think it worked electric, I'm not sure. And it would swing open to let the canal boat go through. And when the canal was through, then they pulled it back in place. It was an iron bridge, about the banisters were about 4 feet high. And I guess the arm was about 12 inches wide, I guess.
What happened to it?
Well, they eventually, when they put they had a new cement bridge they put in there, and they done away with the iron bridge and tore it out. And I don't know what year that was, but I can't recall what year.
Did you say the boats already started loading up and down now?
Well, it's a rule. I didn't see any of the boats. It was before my time, a few years before my time. But there was one boat. They parked down there at Rialto, was there for years, and I did see it, and it was pretty weather beaten. I think it was called West Carrollton, and on the side it had West Carrollton. I do remember that.
Do you
And,
remember
and they had a mule team. They had mules and horses. They pulled these canal boats by a team of horses and mules.
But you never saw them?
I never saw them. No, I never saw them. That was a little before my time. And it used to be, ever so many miles, there was a post out, a ground out there. It said state of Ohio. I think there was one right under the bar. Round posted. It's about 2 or 3 feet in the ground. They had mile marks on them. And they had, you could check the mileage on them. I guess there were so many, 5,200 feet, there was a post there, I guess. And,
your best memories of the canal?
well, I did everything in the water you could. I swam in it. I fished in it. I trapped in it. I went canoe riding in it. And what else could you do?
Did you ice skate on it?
I skated on it.
Where to?
I skated down to the paper mill. That's about as far as you could go because there was locks there. There was locks there because the elevation here was higher, and they had a lock at Rialto, and the boat would go down there, and they put in the locks. They got the cement still down there, and then they would drop it down about 12 feet, get level with the bottom line down below there. And I was never down there when the boat went down because it wasn't operating when I was.
Was that Fox paper mill?
Yeah, that was a Fox Paper Company.
What happened to the paper mill?
It finally closed down, I forget what year. And
It burned?
at one time they had a fire there, and it burnt partly down. And then I know when I got older, they were advertised for help, and they had a big steel ball, man's big steel ball. I guess it was 25 foot in diameter, and they were trying to make paper out of straw. And they would put straw in there and heat it and cook it and try to get it dissolved enough so it could make paper out of it. And then they would hire people to come and shovel out of that hot thing, a hole about this big around. And I thought I'd like to try it, but I couldn't stand the heat, so I didn't take the job. I was about 14, 15 years old then. They'd hire you at any age them days.
You said you used to deliver papers here?
Yes, I delivered the Hamilton Journal. The Journal came here about 6 o'clock in the evening, and it was paused off the train up here, and I'd pick it up. And I had an old bicycle with no fenders on it, and I had a basket on it, and I had 12 customers, and I delivered to 12 different people. I get 2 cents a copy for the paper, and I got 1 cent for my labor. I think I was a little bit underpaid, but
How often did you swim the canal?
whenever it got hot. I swam in the canal. We wouldn't swim down here. We went to the aqueduct. There was an aqueduct at north of here, about 500 feet, where the creek would go underneath the canal. That's what you call an aqueduct. The aqueduct was wood, and the canal went over the top. The creek went under. A little story about that I want to tell you about.
Did you have a bathing suit?
Well, yeah, I had a pair of overalls cut off, and I wore the short the overalls. And, well, I better not tell this story. It's kind of, the family lived next door here. Well, I don't know whether to say this or not.
It sounds like we won't hear this one.
Right.
The lady lived next door. She had 4 sons, and we all got together, and we wanted to go swimming up in the canal. And she come up there. I won't mention her name. I know her name. She's not living today, but Mrs. Roos it was. And she came up there, and we told her to leave. We was going swimming. A lot of the boys didn't have a bathing suit. And she said, "I'm not leaving. These boys are not going to swim this canal." I said, we're going to swim in the canal. She said, if you don't leave, we're all going to take our suits off and jump in the water. She didn't leave, so we kept our word. We jumped in the water in our birthday suits.
Did you stay?
Yeah, she stayed. Yeah, she stayed. She chewed her back. Yeah, she chewed back. I don't think. Oh, wait. This is a Wild West story, I'm telling you. She laughing at you. Oh, I'm telling you, them are the days. As what's called said, those are the days.
What I'd like to do, this one is go over the aqueduct, pull those chairs out, sit there, and then finish the interview over there.
Yeah, it's still right in there for a long while. The act runs straight through there now. The walls are still there, and the bridge you go over is still there. And we built a camp there. We had a boys' camp right side of it. And that's where I was up in the tree cutting the limb off, and I missed the limb and hit myself in the knee with a hatchet. And I still got a scar on my knee where it started bleeding. I had to get down out of the tree.
Let's go over there.
That's KFC Hall, that big building across the street, it's torn down now. Yeah, the Oddfeld Hall, I think, is still standing.
Okay, yeah. Where was that fellow's home?
It's still over here on Port Union Road, that brick building there. You turn right, go away from the Port Union Road on the left-hand side. That's the Oddfeld Hall. I think it's still there. They want to make a, not a museum, but an old-time piece of property out of it. The KFC Hall was a big hall across the street from where I lived. And they held meetings there once a month. And then they had a fish fry there at least once a month in the summertime. And they charge you a quarter, a whole sum of a quarter for a meal. And it was good fish. It didn't come out of the canal here or anything like that. It came out of good. They had good fish there anyway.
What was the Oddfellows Hall used for?
They had their meetings, Oddfellows people, and then once in a while they would have a fish fry and a community meeting and get together.
How long did they do that?
Oh, I'm for 8 or 10 years, I guess, that I can recall.
Do you know where the basin of the port was?
What?
The actual port, or the basin where the boat would sit?
Right below the bar down there, where the bridge, they had a turnaround for boats at one turnaround. They had, in back of that United Dairy store, there was a big opening there. And boats could go in there and make their turn and go back the opposite direction if they wanted to. It was a terminal.
On the railroad track side?
Oh, the opposite side of the railroad track side.
The other side of Port Union Road?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Where the trailer park is?
No, on that side where the United Dairy is.
Okay.
Across the street from Gene's Bar down here. Across the street, down where the bridge was. Where the bridge swung out and these boats were swinging in the opening there. They had, well, I guess it was about a 100-foot circle. The boats could go there and turn around. If they wanted to go back north, they could go back north. And this is the actual trail right here. In fact, there used to be a post along here on each side of here. We dug one of them up one time. They're down the ground about this deep, about this big around in the state of Ohio. I think if you go along here, you'd probably dig one out or find one. They're still in the ground ever so many miles, I guess. They were like a mile post. Yeah.
Do you remember the gas station that used to be on the corner? I guess it was Ohio, maybe, at Port Union?
Yeah.
47?
Yeah. Well, a fellow named Miller owned it when I knew it. He worked for the city of Hamilton. He worked at the light plant in Hamilton, the power plant. And he, I forget what kind of gas he sold that time. But he had a nice station, and he had a daughter I liked real well. And I had a date with her now and then, and I was about 17 then, 16, 17. And her name was Goldie Miller, and his name was Jim Miller, I believe her dad's name was. They were a nice family. And the grocery store was right across the street. Red Eagle grocery store. And they also had one over in Westchester. I think his name was Frankie, I'm not sure. Next to the warehouse over there, Saltman's. They had a hardware store over in Westchester. I think it was right next to that.
I lived in little houses between the gas station and the cafe.
Well, that's where I was born. And not the house, the big house where I'm not told you this. I had a brother that was 1 year older than me. His name was Joe. And my dad hired this lady to take care of us, 2 boys. and he worked on a railroad here. And my mother was at a rest home in Dayton, Ohio. She had a nervous breakdown. She couldn't speak English, so she had a nervous breakdown. So they had to put her in a rest home in Dayton, Ohio. And I don't remember my mother because I was only 6 months old. I was 8 years old. My brother was 9 years old. And this lady that my dad hired, her dad was a shoemaker. He'd shoot horses over here at a blacksmith shop. There's a blacksmith shop next to the outfield hall. Excuse me. And we used to go over to the blacksmith shop, and they'd give me a nickel and give me a big horse's tail with a handle on it to shoo the flies off the horse while they're doing them so they wouldn't kick. And I got a nickel for doing that. And so this man, Jimmy Elwood, was a blacksmith there. Real little man, didn't weigh over 90 pounds, I guess. And his daughter's one I stayed with. My dad hired to take care of us. And they were, and she was kind of mean to us boys. And she made us get up and build fire in the stove every morning. And she stayed in bed. My brother and I took turns. Had no flat top stove, and you put wood and kindling in it and started the fire. And she'd lay in bed. My dad was hiring her to take care of us. Well, my brother got up one morning, and we had a can of gasoline, a can of kerosene sitting there. And he must have red holes in it from the night before. He poured gasoline in, I guess, instead of the kerosene. The stove went up in flames, and I heard the explosion. A can burst, and I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs, and he ran outside. And Melvin Henry lived down on the side street there, saw him. It rained that night before, and my brother was aflame. And he said, "Joe, roll that puddle of water there." So he rolled that puddle of water there to get the flames out. And he got the flames out, and they called the ambulance, or somebody took him to Mercy Hospital in Hamilton, and he only lived 2.5 hours. I went in to see him. He was black as coal. His skin had turned up and peeled upon his arms, and no, forget that memory.
Did you get to talk to him? Was it exciting?
No, I couldn't talk to him. He'd been talking. He didn't have so much smoke from running. Yeah. So I've had a lot of tragedy in my life.
Let's talk about,
I got shot one time.
oh, you
I
did?
saved 3 people's lives.
When was this?
Oh, I was, that was a little later on in life. I was married then. If you want to, let's talk about the trapping up through the territory. You want to talk about that when I was younger? To keep it in line as you go up. All right. Well, to make money, I trapped along this canal and through the creeks back up through there. I set my traps the night before.
What were you trapping?
Well, it was trapping for anything to get in a trap, like a skunk, a raccoon. If you got a skunk, you got $1.25 for its hide. If you got a raccoon, you got $3. If you got a mink, you got $15. And but they never caught anything like that. So I set the traps. Maybe I had 15 traps in the tiles all the way up through that creek up there, through above Fort Union. And every morning I'd run my traps before I went to school. If I caught anything, I'd bring them back and hang them in the shed to dry, and then I'd skin them that evening when I'd come home. And then a man would come around about every 2 weeks and buy your hide from me, put them on a board and dry them out, and then you'd get so much money for them. This one morning, now this is where it's going to get interesting. I was going through the field, and I had a lantern with me. It was dark. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was a pretty dumb trapper. I didn't know how to do things. When you trap in a tile, you're supposed to put a rail or a log on the end of your trap, and you pull the rail out to see what you got on it. Well, I drove my stake down for the trap beside the tile, and it only had 3 feet of chain on it. Well, I didn't know what I had. I knew something was on the chain, but it run back in the tile, the length of the chain, about 3 feet. So the ditch was about 2 feet deep. So I laid on the stomach and got a hold of the chain and pulled back to see what I had. Well, when I got it out the end, I knew what I had because he let go. It was a skunk, and I had him by his back leg. And he hit me full blast right in the face. Oh, it blinded me. I couldn't see. I had to stagger all the way back through the fields, back home, fell over fences and everything to get back home. And I had to catch a bus in 15 minutes.
Where'd you go to school?
I went over to Westchester, a great school. So I got on the bus and they chased me to the back end of the bus. I didn't change clothes. So I got over to school and Mrs. Farmer, she was a teacher. She said, Al, you have to go down in the furnace room. I'm going to send John Jones with you. John Jones is another boy. Bob Clemens lived here in the neighborhood. Said, you two boys go down and stay in the boiler room all day till it's time to go home. Said, we can't have you up here in the class. So nobody could stand us. So we stayed in the boiler room all day with that unpleasant smell. So I got home. I didn't have time to wash when I left in the morning. I had to jump on the bus right away. So because I went to school, I went for 6 years without missing a day of school. So I wanted to keep my record straight, so I went anyway. So that was end of that story.
What happened to the school over here?
Well, they closed this school over here, and then we all went to Westchester. I started in Westchester in 1927 as a freshman, and I went 4 years there. I graduated in 1933, and Mr. Kimmel was my, he had his picture in all the class up at Mars on the wall here a while back. But they had the class of 1932 there for quite a while. I knew over half of them. The 33 class, we didn't have nobody to get it together. So I said to the manager up there, why don't you have our class? He said, well, get together and we'll put it on the wall. Excuse me. But they done away with 32 up there for about a year. It's right next to the bank up there. But I also noticed, I went into Bob Evans up there. If you go into Bob Evans and you go to the ladies' and men's room, there's a picture of old Westchester there on the wall. And there's a man, I didn't know it myself. There was a man on an old 19 Ford, had chains on his back wheels and mud all over his car. It's an axle-sized picture, a life-size picture of it. And who should be sitting on the back of the seat in this old 19 car was Ralph Fee. Ralph Fee is still living, he told me. And he's a year older than I am. And I went to the waitress and I said, that man back there riding that car back there, I said, I went to school with him. I said, he was in class below me in 1932. She said, he was in here the other day. I said, he was? I said, yeah, he came in the other day. And said, we met him. So the picture's still there. So if you ever go to Bob Evans, that picture right on the wall is Ralph Fee in that car. And he still lives over someplace in Moss there on Powdersville Road around that area.
Did you ever sell fish?
How?
Did you ever sell fish? Catfish or...
Oh, the fish? Yeah, we, I don't know what I did or not. I did. Somebody opened these locks here. The boys, we couldn't get any fish. The creek was dry, and we sold fish for 10 or 15 cents a pound, and we get money to go up to Hamilton to the Lyric Theater. They had Western cowboy shows. We'd go up there and go to the show. Or we'd pick blackberries along this place here and sell them for, we sold them for 15 cents a quart. But we had one boy in our group was smart. He said, they bought them for me quicker. I said, how do they do that? Bill Ross was his name. I said, how do they do that? He said, I sold mine instead of 15 cents a quart, I sold them 2 for 35. That.
He sold quick?
He sold his quicker. People didn't have the education, thought that 2 for 35 was cheaper than 15 cents a quart. They were paying a nickel more a quart for them, but he sold more than we did. We picked them along to here. Sometimes we'd be picking a big black snake then out on top of the bushes. You'd have to chase him away to get to your berries. Well, we opened somebody opened the wickets there. Had to pry them open with a big bar. There was 2 of them side by side. And they were gates. And there's a block of wood there and there's holes in this board. And you put your bar in, an iron bar, and you push down that wood right, break it up and let the water come through that deep. Then you push it down on another notch and the water come up that deep. We opened both of them halfway open. And the water just rolled down the creek. Boy, it was going really rolling.
Was that right here?
Right here. And finally, we kept looking and we saw the canal was going down. And the creek was always running like Niagara Falls down through there. And so we couldn't get it shut off. The water swelled up the wood, and we couldn't have a sledgehammer. You had to take a sledgehammer and knock it down. Well, we didn't have a sledgehammer. We just let it keep running. Finally, the paper mill south of here at Alto, they couldn't get enough water to operate on, so they had to shut down. So they called the Butler County Sheriff and told them that they didn't have any water. Somebody got their water off. So the sheriff come out here, and they come up here, and We said, we don't know who done it. There was a bunch of ornery kids here. A bunch of ornery kids here to open these locks. And so they took sledgehammers and drove them shut. And the canal started filling up again. So we took the fish, there was pools of fish. As the water went down, the fish was out in these round pools. We took them out and put them in gunny sacks, and we went around town, and they said, did them fish come out of the canal? If it didn't, we don't want them old fish come out of the canal, them old carp. I said, oh no lady, these come out of the creek. They come out of the creek, which it did. We come out of the creek. But actually they were out of the canal. We didn't lie.
How old were you then?
Oh, I was, I guess, 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the hunting lodge up here? Do you remember that?
The other hunting lodge, Ellis Craig owned that, and he's the one that hired me at Phillip Carey when I went to work at Phillip Carey. When I got 18 years old, he said, come down to Phillip Carey and I will give you a job. His sister used to have a canoe, and she'd come down to Port Union to get her mail every day. Well, I'd get in the canoe and ride back to here, and she'd let me off here at this dock here. And they had a 16-acre lake up here, and they would cut ice off of it. They had an ice house up here. And they'd cut ice there in wintertime, 22 inches thick. They had ice. They would have sometimes an ice cutter that they used with team horses, and they'd pull a sharp knife through the ice and cut off in blocks. And they would load it on canal boats up there and fill the boat full of ice, all at Cincinnati, stored in Cincinnati for summer use. They would stay down there most all the summer.
Pull the beer down there?
How?
Did they used to pull the beer?
Yeah, right. They cooled the beer with it down the German.
What happened to the hunting lodge?
Well, they were here a while back. Now, the lake was it was a beautiful lake, clear. It had all kind of fish, and we fished in sunfish and everything, bass and all. Canal, the lake was fed by the canal. And when they got low, they would open the wickets up here. They had good wickets up here. They would crank them open and fill the lake up in dry weather. Well, they decided that they didn't want the canal longer, so they quit using the canal. They drained it. When they drained that, the lake went dry. They had an old man up there working, his name was Lakes, Mr. Lakes. He worked there as a handyman. They wouldn't let nobody go and get those fish. They didn't take a wheelbarrow and dig holes and bury all them fish they found in the fish holes up there. A lot of people only go up there with bass there, and when it's fresh, they can get fish, but they would not let nobody go in the premises. They had a museum there, had a glass museum, and they had all the birds that they caught in this museum. They had some beautiful birds there. They had them mounted, and they were in glass cages. That was Mr. Ellis. There was two of them. I forget his wife, name. But that's who, he was the general manager at the Phillip Carey Company. And he's the one that got my job to me when I got out of high school to come down to Phillip Carey Company in Locking and get a job. So I went to Phillip Carey and I worked there for 9 years. And the story behind that.
What happened to the birds?
I don't know. They kept it up there for years, and different people came in and lived back there. Mr. Burr lived there for a long while. Then they got a bunch in there that were, I guess, bootlegging. During the time they were bootlegging, and I think they were bringing booze and stuff down to the dance hall and everything. And it's a mile from that road back to this thing, a mile, I believe, back to that house. How?
Tell us about the dance hall.
Well, we used to go to the dances every Saturday night.
It's a pretty hot spot.
Yeah, it was a pretty lively place, and they've had old swing music, and Billy Neal used to play there, him and his family. It was a family affair. And then after that, the band from Hamilton came out there, and I can't think of their name right offhand. It was a family affair. They played, and the girls from Mason came down, and I had a girlfriend from Mason one time. I was 18 years old, and my dad used to make wine. Excuse me, I got something I took these weeds. Glass of wine, glass of beer. I don't know, but he thought it was smart them days. You know, my dad made dandelion wine, and on Saturday nights he'd lock up the cabinets, you know, and so we took a screwdriver, I did, and took the screws out. We get a quart of wine out there. He made dandelion wine, and we'd drink dandelion wine, and we wouldn't get drunk, but we'd get feeling pretty good, you know. Until he caught me, and that was the end of it. And he caught me. The locks had been taken off the cover in the basement. But selling the fish and And that story was skunk. I guess I'm swimming up here, and Mrs. Rook come up. And she wanted the kids said they're not going to swim in that canal. I said, yeah, we're going to swim in it. So she said, if you don't leave, we're going to take her clothes off and jump in. She said, I'm not leaving. So the boys said, well, you don't care. So they all got in their birthday suits and jumped in the water. And she stayed there.
Were you telling me about?
But she was an old timer. You know, sometimes she chewed it back. Oh, I'm telling you, this is Peyton Place. This is Peyton Place. I'll tell you.
Could you tell me about a train back up here, or is it car guy?
Oh, yeah, that was my friend, the second door from the dance hall. They lived in a big building right next to the dance hall. And she was separated, Mrs. Henry was separated from her husband. His name was Charlie Root. He lived in Middletown, but he'd come to see his wife and son every so often. And I was coming down, was riding a bicycle from the railroad track down. I saw the train coming up, passenger train, going north. And I was riding along, and I saw he passed me going towards the train. And just, I looked back over my shoulder, and at that time I heard the train hit the car. And I turned around, went back up, and the train had stopped about 600 feet above. And I walked up the track, and I saw him laying in the gravel along the track. And he was been rolled in dirt and mud. He looked like a black man. He was so full of dust and dirt. But he was dead on the scene. Yeah, that's another tragedy I went through.
I think we're running out of tape here, so
Yeah.
could you kind of tell us?
And I got shot. Did I tell you about getting shot?
No, go ahead.
I was looking for a job. I hadn't got a job yet. I hadn't got a job, and I was laying in bed. I was married then, and a fellow knocked on my door, and he said he's from the sheriff's department. It's Dick Yuleprice he lived in Monroe. He was with the Hamilton Sheriff's Office. He said, we got a man in the backseat of the car we can't handle. He said, would you get up and help us take him to Longview? And I said, sure. So I got up, put my best suit on, and put my tie on, and I got dressed real quick, and I went out and got in the car. Well, as I opened the car door, I looked over in the glove compartment, and there laid a revolver on the glove compartment with the door open. And this man in the back seat, there was another detective was trying to hold him, and he couldn't. As I got in the car, he leaped over the seat with that gun. I saw when he went after, and I went over with him. We both laid over the front seat, and he come back with the gun in his hand, and he turned it around towards me. I leaned back as far as I could, and when he got back, he pulled the trigger. Well, it went off and come out, there's a scar. Went through this finger, come out here, there's a scar. Went through my coat sleeve.